I am Kesten Rono, and above all else, I want to see. How about you? How was yesterday's practice? Were you able to do so with ease? Did you admit to yourself that above all else you want to see? Were you playful? Did you say, I want to see above all else, above whatever depressed state we've trapped ourselves in? Above all else, I want to see. Did you forget to say it 4 times an hour? I did. Did you have forgiveness for yourself and a sense of levity? And did you just try it on again? After all, yesterday's goal was perhaps one time in saying this, we may truly mean it. And if so, we would save ourselves years of practice. What does that suggest? What does that suggest? That if we had intention, conviction, determination, belief, that if we charged our thoughts, this process of miracles, in the direction of love, that we opened up the possibility of a destination on this path to understanding that could result in perfect peace, perfect safety, freedom from worry. What does it say that if we could say and state for ourselves, if we could say, above all else, I want to see, and that if we could mean that somehow one single time, that we could save ourselves years of practice, I suppose, of learning some other way. That there is something to miracles, a paradox of releasing our conscious control over their outcomes, I suppose, and removing ourselves from the spectacle of the miracle itself, which does not matter. It's their source that matters. And entering into this process of believing that we are creators through our thoughts, thoughts being miracles and thoughts being causes of the effects that we experience in life around us. That when we assign that power to our past, that the charges that we have about those memories are painting what our presence is. That we're losing the ability to be curious about seeing some other way. That we are sure, that we are insisting that we know how something works because it's done it before, even though we know that that's no guarantee of how something will work in the future. That there seems to be some kind of disorder. And miracles create the opportunity for all levels of whatever this is to be ordered. That we're just trying too hard in our insistence that we know better. But how can we know better? If I'm brand new to some new subject or some sport, some activity, and you have 10,000 hours completed, you're a master, where would my logic stand that I know better than you? Perhaps I offer some kind of innocent curiosity like a child relative to an adult where they could dream of things that we wouldn't dream of if we are locked into a way of existing in the according to the social structure that we see, the risks that we see, and how we might want to guide them, that we could laugh, that they could think it's so simple. And that's part of their innocence. So perhaps that allows them some different version of imagination, but does that allow them more genuine understanding? Well, I guess we could go a whole lifetime and really never see. So let's just assume that on the path of seeing, for this example? Do we really believe that if we were in this process for less time than all of time, that we could know better with regards to the subject of seeing? I don't believe we would admit that. And if I have just now seen a soccer ball for the first time, I don't believe that I would have the capability that someone playing professionally would. I think we can all admit that. So if we insist that we know better than God, that we can assign everything that we feel and see meaning based off of our limited experience relative to whatever it is like to see from the end of time or all time, whatever the right vocabulary would be for this, we are just mistaking ourselves. We are mistaken, but we are mistaking ourselves for the Creator, apparently, even though we would not admit that we are or have that ability. And yet the opposite appears to be true, that we are imbued with the power of the Creator, that we can create also, and that we do, whether or not we are conscious of it. And we have been creating from some perspective in our past. And the only way to arrive in the nothingness of the present, to open the door to the infinite, to the eternal, to whatever the mystery is of miracles itself, to the unknown, is to not see that as so scary anymore. And how do we do that? We recognize that the past, by definition, is in the past. It is not the present. And we are therefore hanging on to charges that we have assigned to those events. You might feel differently about an education when you were younger than I did. You may have a different representation of what family feels like than I do. We are all different, even if nuanced, and yet we are fundamentally of the same. We are built with meaning and purpose. We are part of all there is. And therefore, we are imbued with an opportunity to create, and an equal opportunity and responsibility to see our own lives differently, to be curious about what possibility that creates as we set aside our preconceived notions, using our past as an opportunity to gain control, we imagine, over the future, thinking that maybe we hope for the best, but we plan for the worst. And all of our insistence is speaking over God's voice, his specific direction that will guide us effortlessly throughout this process, because from his perspective, given all of time, he alone would have the ability to order everything. And our access to that is by accepting a process of miracles, being curious about whatever that is, and wanting to live it in our lives. So we say, above all else, I want to see. I want to see above all else. And we accept that this can be a shortcut, an opportunity for ease, a shortcut to understanding. And it's not taking anything away from us. I'm remembering now that we were just recently saying that vision can only bless, that it has no cost to anyone. So a shortcut isn't cheating us out of anything. What does it mean for us to be able to have conviction in a statement, to feel whatever that conviction may be like, to make that announcement, even if we don't know how to get there? What does it mean for us to relax the idea that we will lose something, that we must sacrifice something in order to gain this perspective? I have certainly expressed that feeling here. And somehow, by entering into whatever that process is, I'm supposed to believe that I become more strengthened. Okay. There's no wrong way of doing this, it would seem, if we are approaching our misunderstanding with curiosity, with openness. That feeling discomfort is just a reflection of the idea that we do not understand something. And when we give ourselves permission to not understand something because it's the first time I've seen a soccer ball, I don't understand how this game works, then we are just allowed to practice. And then when we are allowed to practice without feeling that we must know or that we know better than someone else who might be guiding us, trying to offer us input so that we can play and contribute, when we allow ourselves to practice and not believe that we must know, we find more comfort in that discomfort as we know we are working towards something greater, something more meaningful, something strengthening. And yet it is seemingly this process, this natural process, which may be the goal itself. So we are simply here to practice. We are here to announce what it is that we are curious about in life. And we are here to open our minds to a new way of seeing, insofar that we are able to recognize that we have not been seeing. We've been taking ideas as we have experienced them and declaring that that is the way the world is. That's why people are voting one way or another way. Instead, we are being able to say, what is voting at all? What is this system in which we have been participating? Has it really been in our best interests? Or do we believe that the goal we have in mind is in our best interest, and that if we can just keep pursuing it within that kind of thinking, that fear-based thinking, the idea that we are always being attacked and therefore we have something to defend, well, aren't we just tricking ourselves into using the same tools within that system to stay within that same cycle? It would seem so. Does it mean that the system has to be bad? No. But what if you were able to peer outside of the system? What if looking outside of the system offered you other considerations that the system would hope you could not notice? That the ego would hope that you are not too curious about truth, because its tools all of a sudden become irrelevant. Irrelevant. So, may we allow ourselves to consider that there are more loving ways of seeing the world. May we believe that we are worthy of experiencing that love. May we believe that we are powerful enough to say, it starts with me. I am part of all there is. Therefore, it is vital that I make this change, even if I do not understand. Okay, so I will practice. I will practice. What is the worst that will happen? I may come to understand a deeper idea of love, even if I cannot understand all of its unconditionality, at least not yet. What would be so threatening about a different way of seeing? Wouldn't a system that is offering you freedom, even though it appears through some lenses that it is simply taking that sovereignty, taking that opportunity for future? Wouldn't a system, if it means what it says, appreciate the fresh perspective that you could offer to help solve some of its problems it believes exists? What if it's all okay? And what if we discover that perhaps we do find ourselves somewhat alone? Wouldn't that give us even more of an opportunity to look at ourselves? To be curious about what we have felt in the past? What if we end up more alone in some sense, and we just don't hear quite as much noise? Less marketing, fewer social media feeds, less news. I don't even have the weather app on my phone. That's something I've been trying for over a year. And you know what I've discovered? It hasn't mattered. It hasn't mattered at all. This is what the weather is. And my dog needs to go to the park. And if it's raining, I'll be wet. Perhaps I am lucky to have a place to dry off. Or perhaps we are always provided for with everything we need. And that has nothing to do with someone else providing it for us. Perhaps it is our ability to believe that when we go out into the world with as much intention as we can, to be well, to do well, to mean well, to share love, to be curious about some idea of excitement that we are charging with a positive lens, that we can accept that maybe everything around me is meaningless, waiting for it to have a narrative attached to it. And therefore, I am attaching the narrative to it. And if I listen to someone else's narrative about what it must be, then I am more likely to assume that same perspective and whatever I associate with that perspective. I'm totally outsourcing my mind. And therefore, I'm outsourcing the ideas that affect the way that I experience my life. I outsource my ideas of money, medicine, food, spirituality, religion. And what if we just ask ourselves what we would want to believe? That can feel threatening. If it feels threatening, consider what part of you is threatened. I would imagine it would be something around your safety and security. Therefore, we could admit that we are worried about how things would work out. Therefore, we have something to defend our very life as we know it in the way that we see it. Therefore, we are inclined to see things wrong in the world. Therefore, we may feel that we need to attack some of those things or shrink away. Do either of those sound like operations of love? Can we see how we keep tricking ourselves? Can we accept that maybe we don't know how to see a different way? And so will we announce, above all else, I want to see? And so it is. And so it is. Principle 28. Miracles are a way of earning release from fear. Revelation induces a state in which fear has already been abolished. Miracles are thus a means, and revelation is an end, a means to an end. Miracles do not matter. It is their source that matters, their source being love, I dare say unconditional love. That all miracles are expressions of love. Miracles mean life. All love is expressed maximally. Miracles represent both the beginning and the end. And here we are learning that miracles are a means to an end. That sounds like cause and effect. Miracles are thoughts. There are no neutral thoughts. There are no neutral things because there are no neutral thoughts. Miracles mean life. Meaning means purpose. God created everything, so everything that is alive, we could say, has purpose. It is meaningful by design. It has the purview. of the widest aperture with the most light. Something further along on this path of time where the end is when learning is complete and we are finding ourselves in time. We have a narrower perspective than whatever this end goal is. So we are willing to try these ideas on and say, I am just practicing, and above all else, I want to see. Miracles are a means, and revelation is an end. Okay? Miracles are thoughts. We have the power in us to create, at least in our thoughts, by assigning a positive or negative charge to what is by design meaningless. Miracles are the cause. And we cannot change anything by just focusing on the effect if we do not grant ourselves the power to understand that the cause, our thoughts, miracles themselves, giving rise to life. If we will not allow ourselves to accept that we have the ability to create our thoughts, thus creating a cause for some effect, then we are stripping our own power. We could be tricked. We believe we are not powerful, and the spectacle of a miracle will excite us, but the miracle itself does not matter. It is a means, a teaching device, a means to an end, and revelation is an end. Revelation induces a state in which fear has already been abolished. Okay, so revelation isn't a state. Revelation is an end caused by the means of miracles. Revelation creates a state in which fear has already been abolished. So this isn't the abolition of fear, it's the state induced by whatever revelation is, which is the effect of miracles. So miracles are a means. Revelation is an end. What is that end? It's something that induces a state. What is a state? A way of being. Something that induces a way of being in which fear has already been abolished. So fear has already been done with when we enter into this state, which is created by miracles, and miracles are a way of earning release from fear. So earning requires some kind of dedication, devotion, determination, a concerted effort to see life differently, to state that it must be so. What were the steps that we learned were along this path so far? Recognizing our upsets and letting them go. And this process allows whatever it is that we were seeing to be replaced with something else. But it's just the first two that take action on our part. And all that really is feeling and forgiveness. We feel however we are. Dang, why do I feel this way? Oh, shoot, I forgive that idea. Bam. Ego dismantled. Or at least that would seem that is the blueprint. And we don't even have to do the third step, replacing it with something. If we are replacing it, possibly we believe again we know best, and now we're planning. And it's probably fun to plan, but we're not going to be able to centrally plan action. We know that's just not possible. You try to centrally plan, you minimize the opportunity of value expression through human action. You lose the measuring tool of knowing what the market really wants by saying that you know better. And every example in history of this, well, the worst ones show significant cases of death, starvation, just the inability for people to eat, the misallocation of resources, and the inability of people to invest their life savings in the direction of the good or service that they would believe would be most valuable. Well, what would be most valuable? Whatever has the most meaning. That would be the most purposeful investment. What has the most meaning? Everything. Okay. What doesn't have meaning? Everything that we are building out of pain and fear and shame and depression and anger, believing that we can guard something, that we must do so or all will be lost. But we are reminded that vision may only bless, that it does not cost anyone anything. Miracles are a teaching device and a reminder that it is blessed to give and to receive. That miracles are part of some interlocking chain of forgiveness. And when that's completed, atonement is realized. Atonement works all the time and in all the dimensions of time. That is very epic. Seems like living there in some state across all dimensions of time, functioning all the time, would be representative of an idea, as illogical as it is for us to believe can be true, but it would certainly exist there if perfect peace, perfect safety, and freedom from worry were to be a thing at all. So, how do we get there? Well, would fear exist in perfect peace? Probably not. Miracles are a way of earning release from fear. This takes some amount of effort for us to want to see things differently, for announcing it, for being determined. And this process, paradoxically, can be done with great ease because it simply already is. Our effort, if there is such a thing, is in simply recognizing that we are creators. And perhaps that is the most challenging part. If that's true, then feeling however we feel and forgiving it would be a blessing to be a part of that idea, to recognize whatever power it is that we have, not to be drunk in it for some sense of control, but to simply let it go. And when we let it go, we can see whatever is there. And we can hear the voice of God speaking very directly to us. A way of earning release from fear. And once fear has been released through this process of miracles, revelation, a new way of understanding exists. That's all that's left over, is the truth. We get rid of all the untruths, the ideas of the past painting our present. We keep giving the power over to the past in that way, so we release how we have felt in the past, charging our present. If we have released the past, we have released our fears. Now we are just simply present. And what is there? Nothingness. But the world is built with meaning. So where is that? That lies in the truth, which simply is. It is the truth after all. It's just there. It's the truth. If I tell you the truth, well, perhaps we feel certain ways about that based off of how we felt in the past or whatever we expected. And it's not, I'm saying, okay to maliciously wrong someone. But if I tell you the truth, what else is there to tell you? It's the truth. The amount of energy that I need to spend in masking something else that you could be curious about, all of that goes away. When we let these untruths be released, we relieve their grip on us. And we thought this whole time, if we just had more control, we were more powerful. And yet, of course, that is the idea that fear would have us assume, that we must hold on or we will be destroyed. And that's the exact case with fear. It has to hold on. It has to find places to hold on to it or it will simply be let go and recognized for what it is, an absolute illusion. And once the illusion is cast aside, well, all that will be there is whatever is, which is the truth, unconditional love. Forget the weather telling me what's going to happen in the next hour or 10 minutes. It's right there. When I turn off the news, all the stories that I experience are whatever's around me or whatever's in my mind. When I turn off the radio, I start singing my own songs based off of how I feel. I didn't know how to sing before. You heard me the other day. Perhaps you still think I don't. I accept your label if you believe your label is valuable. And I accept any way that you can help me recognize a new truth. But everything else is meaningless to me. Above all else, I want to see. So, I thank you for your expressions, and I thank you for listening to mine. May we realize that we are fundamentally more alike on this quest for meaning than we need to underline based off of our past experiences. It's all okay. And so, with our devotion to this process of miracles, we are earning release from fear. And this cause, now that we are playing with cause rather than just trying to change effect and caught inside of a loop of attack thoughts, we are breaking out. We are realizing that we are powerful and that because this process must happen with us, at some point, we're going to have to do what we thought was challenging and to sever our need to assign ourselves to the pain that we have felt. We will ask ourselves, what might I love more than I love feeling fearful? I might just love more. It's okay if this existence has a fundamental underlying truth to it, a fundamental meaning. It's okay if it was all created with something that's different than the way that we've seen it. It's totally okay. And unconditional love would tell you it's all okay. You're forgiven. Would you like to feel that blessing more than you would love to feel the need to imagine that you should live in a state of fear and attack and control? Will you allow yourself to have the paradoxical control over your own thoughts as a creator, being curious about what you might want? Can you accept that that answer could be love? And if it is, will you let go of your fears and be curious about noticing whatever it is that is left over when you turn off the noise? Perhaps there was a voice there the whole time. Perhaps there was never a need to pretend like you would not be provided for. Perhaps relaxing timing and expectation and pursuing something, this practice, a step for the sake of the step, with no insistence on how it exactly has to work out or when. Perhaps this actually offers us some sense of levity, clarity, and strength, some other way of associating with it that we just cannot understand when we believe those things can only come by us fighting through a system that would otherwise destroy us. How would love destroy you? It may make you vulnerable, but in your vulnerability, maybe you awaken to all kinds of feelings that you were afraid of noticing. I don't know. But to live in a state in which fear has already been abolished, rather than being in the state where we are unable to recognize fear itself, that it is the water around us as if we are a fish, the air around us right now as if we are humans on land. Not even knowing it's there means that we do not know that we are in a prison. And we've already learned that we are not stuck here, that releasing our attack thoughts releases the prison walls itself. And that process may be beautiful, releasing fear. But what about a state induced through this process of miracles, through forgiveness, through our thoughts? What about living in a state where fear has already been abolished? What would that mean? Fear was abolished. We don't want it to come back. That sounds fearful. We're talking about it being abolished. It happened in the past and we released our past. So now we are living in a present time where there is no such thing as fear. That would be an illusion. And where would an illusion exist in truth? Let's accept that it is possible, even if intellectually it is challenging to arrive there. Because intellectually we can imagine that we cannot know what we do not know. And if there is a knowingness, then it knows better. Above all else, I want to see. Lesson 28. Above all else, I want to see things differently. Above all else, do you want to see things differently? If you do, try repeating this. Above all else, I want to see things differently. Me too. Today, we are really giving specific application to the idea for yesterday. In these practice periods, you will be making a series of definite commitments. The question of whether or not you will keep them in the future is not our concern here. Where are we? In the present. We don't need to be concerned about the future. And we don't need to be concerned in this practice whether or not we are going to keep the commitments that we are creating. We're going to create commitments for the sake of taking that step. If you are willing at least to make them now, the commitments, you have started on the way to keeping them. Okay? Just by making them, we are on a path towards keeping them, but they have to be created. And we are still at the beginning. Lesson 28, 365 lessons, 1 year, simply only 1 year of our lives. But as far as the practice goes, as it's been written down in this book, we are definitely at the beginning relative to the end. So let's take it easy on ourselves, just like yesterday. If you didn't say, above all else, I want to see every 15 minutes, did you fail? What would that create in you if you believed that you failed instead of letting it be? Same for today. We do not need to worry about whether or not we will honor these commitments. We are here to practice, and above all else, we want to see things differently. Not above all else, we will keep every word that we can ever say under any set of circumstances. Well, at least we can't say that yet. You may wonder why it is so important to say, for example, above all else, I want to see this table differently. In itself, it is not important at all. Yet, what is by itself? And what does in itself mean? What is even by itself? And what does in itself even mean? You see a lot of separate things about you, which really means you are not seeing at all. Wow, that should be a guiding principle for us. If we are seeing separate things, I see a dog, I see a plant, I see this computer. If I believe that they are separate, then that means I am not seeing. That means I'm image making. I'm image making a dog relative to these plants, relative to this computer. They're all in different spaces. So seeing this idea of vision. It's blessing, that which takes nothing from us, no sacrifice whatsoever. That vision, seeing, necessarily means that we are not focused on how things are different or individual. You see a lot of separate things about you, which really means you are not seeing at all. You either see or not. You either see or not. You are either seeing things separately or you are not seeing. I'm not seeing right now. But above all else, I want to see things differently. When you have seen one thing differently, you will see all things differently. Okay. When you have seen one thing differently, you will see all things differently. The light you will see in any one of them is the same light you will see in them all. Okay. We simply need to see one thing differently, and we will see all things differently. How can that be true if all things we imagine are different? Then fundamentally, we are just not seeing what we are meant to be seeing. The light you will see in any one of them is the same light you will see in them all. There is a light, a property of light in all of these things, in the dog, the plant, the computer. I am being reminded that all minds are connected. That somehow there has to be some common property amongst the dog, the plant, and the computer, even if fundamentally each one seems wildly different than the other. That seeing them for their differences is me image making and categorizing the world based off of my past experiences, most likely. And therefore, I am dictating what I am noticing around me by its edges, its differences, and how they are separate from each other. So perhaps this is what image making is itself. And seeing is recognizing the light, the meaning, possibly, maybe even a visual form, but seeing is recognizing the very character, the meaningness, the purpose, the light of everything around us. And we were told that when we notice even actual edges of light around the objects that we imagine we are seeing, then everything else will start to rapidly change. So, what would seeing be? What would true vision be? It would be when we see light in anything around us, as everything would have meaning, and therefore, that light will be the same light we see in everything. When you say, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are making a commitment to withdraw your preconceived ideas about the table, our past. We're releasing our past and our experiences from the past, which we believe must dictate what we are seeing in the future. Well, what we will see in the future, in our presence. You are making a commitment to withdraw your preconceived ideas about the table and open your mind to what it is and what it is for. We were saying recently that we do not perceive our best interests, and that our goals, being focused on something that is an illusion, are meaningless, and therefore we are never working towards our best interests, such as long as we are keeping that frame of reference. I am grateful for this book for offering me an opportunity to see things differently. We are going to make these announcements about how we want to see things differently, because in doing so, we are simply making a commitment. And what was today's principle? Miracles are a way of earning release from fear. We are making a commitment to withdraw our preconceived ideas about the table, the dog, the plant, the computer, whatever it is that we are saying it must be defined as, and therefore accepting that the future must hold those things. I could feel marketing and news telling me what things will be, defining it for me. And here we are being curious about what exists when we can take away whatever it is that we have automatically assigned to something. You are making a commitment to withdraw your preconceived ideas about the table and open your mind to what it is, suggesting that it is something different than what we imagine it is. I imagine it's a table. I imagine this computer is on this table right in front of me, and it would appear that it is. And maybe that's perfectly okay, that is what image making is. And maybe image making is absolutely fine, you know? But seeing is something else. Seeing is recognizing the meaning and light. Open your mind to what it is. It is not what we imagine it is. So what is it? That's what we are going to be opening our mind to. And what it is for. We've been saying that the purpose of this table is to hold this computer or this book. And perhaps that is what a table can do. But if I open my mind to believing that I just fundamentally did not know what this table was at all, then I suppose that would open my mind to a possibility of simply believing that it has some other purpose than what it is. And supposedly then seeing is a representation of seeing that light in that object. And if that light exists in this table, and if it can exist in this computer, somehow that's the same as it existing in a living object, I would imagine, separating what is living and non-living, or as we saw in the text recently, human and non-human. Everywhere we look, we're being challenged to recognize that we've been assigning meaning to everything that's around us, as if we know best. Therefore, talking over God. It's so subtle, but it is persistent. This book is correct. It's everywhere if I'm defining everything as it is. Even if I don't know what it is, I'm saying that is a thing into itself. And I'm missing something about seeing, which is that even in the things into themselves, even though we don't know what it means to be in itself or by itself, that seeing whatever fundamentally is the light of any given object, animate or inanimate, that we open the door to see that light and meaning in all things. And all things must have meaning because they are created from some idea of a creator that has given us the opportunity to assign meaning and purpose to things and allowing us to have access through some natural, habitual, always occurring process, allowing us to have access to the discovery of seeing the true meaning and purpose through love in all things that are around us. So we might not have been able to organize it all, but we have some way through to see its organization. And we can start with by appreciating the in order, the randomness, that part of pattern of miracles themselves. And by doing so, we will discover organization. So maybe we let it go and just be and accept that it is already done. And all we need to do is release our grip on the assignments that we have by simply forgiving ourselves for thinking that we knew best. It's all okay. You are making a commitment to withdraw your preconceived ideas and open your mind to what it is and what it is for. You are not defining it in past terms. You are asking what it is rather than telling it what it is. You are not binding its meaning to your tiny experience of tables. nor are you limiting its purpose to your little personal thoughts. All right. Are we being attacked? No, we're not being attacked. We're receiving some idea of instruction. This is not saying that we are worthless at all. This is actually providing us some kind of relative perspective that how we are seeing is not just wrong, and it has never said that we are necessarily wrong. It's just out of alignment with truth. But our purview is relatively narrow. You are not binding its meaning when we are releasing the past, not defining things in past terms. We are not binding the meaning of the table or the dog or the plant or the computer. We are not binding the meaning to our tiny experience. That we're taking our past experience, demanding that it must be true, and here we're being told that it is tiny. We're looking through a keyhole and pretending that we can see the shape of the entire room and the complexity of all the objects in it. What a joke, right? Tiny experience. Nor are you limiting again, tiny, limiting its purpose. Our experience is tiny. Our understanding of purpose is limited through this tiny experience. Nor are you limiting its purpose to your little personal thoughts. Okay. We have thoughts that we believe are in our own best interest, that we're trying to define our own personal meaning. We are misguiding the process of miracles by commandeering our thoughts and applying them towards this limiting purpose. If we are limiting purpose and meaning means purpose, we are limiting our access to understanding the meaning of whatever knowingness is. I love this sentence. I'll say it the other way. Because we are still defining things from our past, in terms of our past, therefore image making, seeing things as independent and trying to wonder, like, how are they all the same? They're clearly different, aren't they? I know better. This is a table, that's a dog. With this frame of reference, we are binding meaning to our tiny experience, no matter how big we think it is and how much we definitely know. I mean, like, yeah, okay, I'll take some ideas here about ethereal stuff I can't prove, but a table's a table, man. With this perspective, we are binding its meaning to our tiny experience and therefore misrepresenting the totality of its meaning. We would be limiting its purpose because we have limited its meaning based off of our tiny experience, so it cannot have full purpose. Because we are using our little personally minded thoughts, may we allow God's ideas into our mind to expand our capability of entering into this process of miracles and accepting its natural flow on the path to revelation and atonement. You will not question what you have already defined. If we believe we know best, why would we ask another question about it? This feels like having our heads welded shut. That we think we know the truth and therefore there can be no more truth. Rather than saying we are on a path of learning and understanding, coming into more meaning, which would require us to release whatever we had assigned before, which would be a threat, we may imagine, towards our way of being, this idea of accepting change and therefore assuming more control, as if that's ever served us, as if we haven't changed. I see myself here and I look different than I had before. And I'll look different again. You will not question what you have already defined. And the purpose of these exercises is to ask questions and receive the answers. We're going to ask questions and get answers. Why are we so scared of knowing? In saying, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are committing yourself to seeing. It is not an exclusive commitment. It is a commitment that applies to the table just as much as to anything else, neither more nor less. You could, in fact, gain vision from just that table if you would withdraw all your own ideas from it and look upon it with a completely open mind. I love this idea. If love is the basis for all of life, because miracles are sourced from love and their expressions are of love, which is always maximal, and miracles mean life, then whatever it is that life is derived from the process of miracles from love. So if everything around us in life is made of love, we should be able then to discover love in anything around us. It doesn't have to be some prescriptive process where someone else discovered an inkling of whatever love is or a complete capacity to see whatever that means yet. The light you will see in any one of them is the same light you will see in them all. That's what was said earlier. So if we can see light in any one thing, that light is by design existing in all things. It is what makes them up at all. Perhaps then that light is love. Miracles are the means to some end. They are teaching devices and revelation, a new way of seeing and understanding. True knowledge is an end. So we should be able to wake up to this idea of seeing from anything around us. This chew toy. This chew toy could be my awakening. I'm laughing, but I'm laughing at the simplicity of that idea. That this has a meaning, that it is something that I have yet to understand what it is. By calling it a chew toy, I am image making and accepting it for what it is and its utility as I believe it. But vision, true sight, awakening to whatever that meaning and knowledge and purpose is available right here. It is a commitment that applies to the chew toy just as much as to anything else, neither more nor less. You could, in fact, gain vision from just this chew toy if you would withdraw all of your own ideas from it. Withdraw all of my ideas from this and look upon it with a completely open mind. I will do a meditation about this idea. Above all else, I want to see things differently on this dog chew toy. It has something to show you, something beautiful and clean and of infinite value, full of happiness and hope. All right, this item here has something to show me, something beautiful and clean and of infinite value. Infinite value, something that can be destroyed, as we admitted, that nothing will exist, that nothing is real, that everything, like the leaves on the tree, will fall and decay. And yet, it has infinite value. That should be a clue that if I'm assigning the value to what I believe it is and its purpose for what I believe it is, and I'm supposed to be able to recognize infinite value, well then already my inability to recognize this value, perhaps whoever had it first believe that it lost its value when it lost its handles. But I didn't think so. So already the value is somewhat subjective, but this should have infinite value, which means that it must have value beyond whatever I believe it is. Because even if it whittled down to the tiniest thread, I might still be trying to use it as a chew toy. And it wouldn't be very valuable to my dog. I don't think she would imagine it would be fun. However, this is supposed to be showing me something beautiful and clean and of infinite value, full of happiness and hope. So in its destruction, it's still full of happiness and hope. Perhaps it is not being destroyed then. Perhaps there is some other way of gaining vision from just this chew toy. If I would withdraw all my own ideas from it. And I'm reminded it's not a chew toy, it's a tug. Hidden under all your ideas about it is its real purpose, the purpose it shares with all the universe. Okay, this is the idea that I'm painting in my own mind, even if I'm incorrect, that there is some level of truth throughout time and space, some unconditional love. On top of that unconditional love is whatever it is that I am associating with the world. How do we peel that away? We recognize simply how we feel and admit it. We find some source, right? This is smeared on top of the canvas of unconditional love. We find some source and we forgive ourselves. We forgive its idea, even though it would plead with us that we must keep it or we will be destroyed. But that is what that idea would have anything feel, because that is fundamentally what fear is. So we say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, and I love you. And we let it go. And we have to do nothing next. We don't have to replace it, even though it provides us the opportunity to replace it. We have cleaned off everything on top of the table, and we can see it for exactly what it is. Hidden under all your ideas about its real purpose hidden under all your ideas about it is its real purpose, the purpose it shares with all of the universe. We are going to wipe everything off the table and clear our minds and see this table for what it truly is, for what its true purpose is, the purpose it shares with all of the universe, rather than to be the space on which we pile our own ideas, thinking that we know better. We are coloring over purpose, over meaning. We are drowning out God's voice, thinking that we know better, being afraid of the idea that because we do not know something or cannot see how something works, that we are not being provided for. We are just simply not seeing. In using the table as a subject for applying the idea for today, you are therefore really asking to see the purpose of the universe. If we are clearing everything away and we are seeing its true purpose, its purpose for all of the universe, not just for holding our computer or book, that the purpose of being alive isn't for us to manifest our fears and gain control, that the purpose is something else. And as we clear it away, we recognize what we are really asking is not what is the purpose of this object. We are asking to see the fundamental purpose of the universe. So not that what is the purpose of the table for the universe, because already we would be saying, well, what is the purpose of the dog or the plant or the computer? And then again, we are believing that they are separate, that they could have different purposes, that the ability to see then means that we are seeing meaning in all things. Meaning is purpose. We are discovering purpose in all things, and that purpose is the purpose, the meaning, the light, the truth. You will be making this same request of each subject that you use in the practice periods, and you are making a commitment to each of them to let its purpose be revealed to you, instead of placing your own judgment upon it. We've been taking our past and saying, that's what this is for. I know what its purpose is, because I know what it is. Instead, we are going to be making a commitment to each of the subjects that we use in this practice. We're going to make a commitment to each of them to let its purpose be revealed to us instead of placing our own judgment upon it. We will have 6 2-minute practice periods today in which the idea for the day is stated first and then applied to whatever you see about you. Not only should the subjects be chosen randomly, which again allows us to have appreciation for the randomness, the pattern of randomness that miracles have about them, to recognize miracles. Not only should the subjects be chosen randomly, but each one should be accorded equal sincerity as today's idea is applied to it. Yes, that's right. We were just learning that we could wake up from any object. So if we believe that this tug is different than the dog itself, I would be much more inclined to get rid of this before her under all circumstances. So I am admitting that how I am seeing the items around me is misaligned with some idea of a universal purpose. It's not me trying to say that my dog is less important to me than the toy that we might play with. It's just that there are other ways of seeing, or a way of seeing. You either see or you do not. And that possibly once I can see, then I can understand more fully. But seeing itself doesn't have to be a threat right now to however we have been image making, if such is a thing. That we're not wrong, we believe, for image making. We are still at the beginning. We are just making a series of definite commitments. Whether or not we keep them is not our concern. I don't really know how to reconcile everything that I'm learning. I'm simply going to make the commitments that I want to see things differently. And there must be some other way of understanding whatever meaning is and purpose is than whatever I am defining it to be. However, I am assigning purpose to the dog relative to the toy. So, subjects are to be chosen randomly, and each one should be accorded equal sincerity in an attempt to acknowledge the equal value of them all in their contribution to our seeing. As usual, the applications should include the name of the subject your eyes happen to light on, and you should rest your eyes on it while saying, above all else, I want to see this blank table, dog, plant, computer differently. Each application should be made quite slowly and as thoughtfully as possible. There is no hurry. As I like to say to myself and in my relationships, hurry is a state of mind. Six 2-minute periods. Above all else, I want to see things differently. Please say this after me. Above all else, I want to see things differently. Above all else, I want to see that book differently. Above all else, I want to see that speaker differently. Above all else, I want to see that picture differently. Above all else, I want to see that chair differently. Above all else, I want to see that pen differently. Above all else, I want to see that glass differently. Above all else, I want to see myself differently. Above all else, I want to see things differently. I am Kesten Rono, and I'm grateful for your patient practice and your curiosity about these nuances and the clues in this text that allow us to accept that there are other ways of seeing. And if there are other ways of seeing, perhaps there is a way to see universal meaning and therefore universal purpose. Would you like to know what that is? Are you willing to commit yourself to stating specific goals that above all else you wish to see things differently? I'll see you tomorrow for day 29 of our exploration of A Course in Miracles. Be well.